Hello everyone, I'm Zahid from Talks at Innovation Valley, and today we have very amazing guest with us, Ines Hamadi. Ines Hamadi is a product designer and UX UI designer at Apple. You know, Apple is a very great company, and especially Apple is known and famous because of the very amazing personality that has given the world a new approach of minimalist design and minimalism. Steve Jobs. So I'm really happy to have Ines on the show. And first of all, I really warm welcome you, Ines, to the show.
Thank you so much, Zahid, for inviting me. It's an honor.
You're welcome. Ines, before we move to our topic, which is, on the design, UX UI design, and the overall design thing, I would love my audience to know your story. Who are you? Where you born? Where you got your schooling? How you got to this design industry and how you got to Apple? How was all this journey? You told me offline that you travel across the world and you live in multiple continents on the same time. That is something, amazing story. So tell everything about you.
Yes. Thank you. Well, hello everyone, and thank you again for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here and excited to share my story too. Well, which it is funny because I don't have a typical product designer story. I didn't study properly to become a designer. Am I still here?
You are.
Oh,
Keep
sorry.
talking.
I
You are
couldn't
taking
see you
solo.
anymore.
Problem. You are
Oh,
there.
okay,
I
okay. Oh, you just moving me. Sorry, I'm not
no, I
familiar.
was I was just giving you the focus, the total screen, but you keep
Okay,
talking. No
okay.
worries. Yeah,
Yeah, so
talking.
as I was saying, I don't have a typical journey. I'm Ines Hamadi. I was born in France. I'm French Algerian from Algerian immigrants, and I was raised in France. And when I was about 20 years old, I decided to move to the US. Well, not really decided, kind of happened. Um, and I was a babysitter for years. I worked as a babysitter for families in the US, and I was working for sometimes three different families just because I just had to survive, but I also wanted to attend school. So I didn't go to college, but I was working hard and I was paying a design school. So I was going to design school while I was working, studying, and it kind of after working, designing on my side because I did a lot of self-taught. I kind of discovered design on my own at first, and then I got into the design school. And after the design school, I started applying for jobs over and over and over, spending nights applying to hundreds of jobs. I started working for free. I was doing projects for free just to get better at my skills. And after applying, I got finally a job that paid me for designing, and then worked for startups. And after years, that's when I got I got more experience and I got more skilled, and that's when I got a job with Apple. Kind of just kept applying. I just never stopped believing. As a designer at that time, working for Apple was a dream. I really never thought I would be able to work at Apple because I didn't have a bachelor, because I didn't do the proper journey as a designer. So I never thought it would be possible. But I did it somehow through my hard work and through my self-taught and through my skills. I bet.
Wow, many congrats and really great. Even if you did not expect that, but it you did it, and I really appreciate it. So, Enes, do you remember? By the way, when Apple interviewed you, I mean, was that very easy for you? There were kind of multiple interviews or what?
No, it was not easy. So actually I applied for a job at Apple, and they refused me. I didn't get that job the first time. So it was multiple interviews, and I think they got someone more experienced, or maybe someone with more education. So I didn't get that job at the first time, but I kept applying. And then a few months later, I got another interview for a job as a product designer at Apple. And this time, I think if I remember correctly, I tried to took it in a different way. I was a little bit less nervous because I did it before. So I was trying less to impress, but just to be myself. And and then I got that job on the second time. So it was two interviews for the second time. The first time was one interview and didn't follow up. The second time was two interviews and they did follow up.
Wow. So it means actually the point is be yourself. Don't try to impress, actually.
I think
Great.
it's a I think
Great
it's a
point.
big I think it's a big one to really be yourself and um not be trying to be someone you are not.
Wow. So, Ines, everybody knows in the world that Apple is famous for its design philosophy. And how does Apple define great design, and how is it different from other companies? Especially, the Steve Jobs was very, very good on this. He was a kind of, minimalist person. So
Mhm.
he kind of, like the simplicity in designs.
Yes. Yes, I would say the main difference in what Apple does really good is that they focus on the user experience first. And I think the user experience term UX came after Apple started creating the user experience. And I think it's one of the main of Steve Jobs quotes is focusing on the user experience. So I think what Apple does very well and what differentiate Apple to other companies is that they focus first on the experience and on how the user feel about the product and how the user feel within the interaction. That's why they conduct research. That's why they focus on empathy, on clarity, and on emotional resonance, and they do it very well, and that's why they use minimalism to make the user feel calm, to feel home, to feel a sense of familiarity, which brings the user back. And that's why the user in the world is so attached to Apple's design, and that's why it's very hard to switch from Apple to another platform, because you've been to another brand, because you've been so used to this design. It feels home. It's not even a product anymore. It's a part of you.
All right. Since you know that our topic is very amazing, the Apple way, how to build products people fall in love with. And really, there are many of the products of Apple that people really fall in love with. So,
Mhm.
when we talk about the design, uh, when we talk about the UX UI design, what is the difference between UX and UI design, and what are the questions actually that you start asking the you know users, or I mean, how do you ensure the good design?
Yeah, it's a very good question. There's not much a difference. So the user UX is user experience and UI is user interface. So the UX part, usually in a UX UI design process, is when you will start conducting research about the user. So that's why you will focus more on the user experience. That's where we will start creating user empathy. That's where we will start to understand how will the user feel when they will interact with the interface. So that's why you have the UX, so the user experience, and that's where you will conduct all the research and you will learn more about the user. You will create a user persona. And then after this, based on that user experience, you will start creating the user interface. So how would it look? So it's kind of intertwined. It's not two different entities. It lives together. It's interconnected. You can do some research about the user experience, do some interface, and then come back to the research, and vice versa. It's an ongoing process. um, when they talk about the practical design and how you design the invisible, for example, it's it's all about the what goes behind the design, behind the user interface. So as a designer, we do a lot behind and before we start the user interface that the user don't really see. We create the information architecture. How will the information be shown first and last, and why? How is this information more important than the second one? All of that is this thinking process and the design process that goes behind the user interface. So that's why when we say design the invisible, is basically designing what the user is not really seeing per se. um, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really great. So, Ines, what does designing the invisible mean in practical terms for product designers? What do you mean by invisible? Are there some parts invisible that actually sometimes designers overlook or ignore?
No, so when I say designing the invisible, is when you start to sketch, when you start to create, for example, a site map, you will start designing. This is the start of the design. The information architecture is what is behind the design. So, for example, behind an icon can be a menu. This is designed and this is invisible to the user. So all of this portion is the work that the designer do behind the scene, as per se the invisible. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, the question is that are there some elements that usually designers miss when they start to question when they start asking questions from the user, or when they start to building the design? Are there any elements that designers actually miss in their planning or approach?
I think it would depends, but it's this is not what I meant when I was talking about designing the invisible. Invisible. There are some part that we can miss, and that's why we keep going on the research, and that's why it's never the process never really end, and that's why a design is never really finished. That's why you have updates constantly, because you make new research, because trends changes, because the world is changes constantly, because AI is changing. So you have to constantly make new research and update your design.
All right, and the next question is very this is a kind of very favorite question from my side, and favorite topic actually. I watched a documentary on this topic, minimalism, minimalist.
Hmm.
So when we talk about the minimalism or minimalist design, how important is minimalism in product designing,
Hmm.
and why designing while designing the tech products, it is more than important to be with the this minimalist approach? Define this. What is minimalist design and why it is important?
Yes, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Minimalism started in the 19th century. Is it right after modernism, and it's not only in product design. You see it in art. You see it in architecture. It kind of grew over time. And I believe in the product design world, it's not only an aesthetic choice, because it's not only because it looks nice, but it's very strategic, actually. Um, because what minimalism does very well is to make complexity looks very simple. And I believe that's why Apple uses this minimalism philosophy is because Apple didn't invent minimalism. It existed before, but they use it as a philosophy because it can translate the complexity in a very simple way that makes the user come back, that makes the user use their tool and their app, their product over and over, and that makes them feel calm and very safe. Um, so the importance of minimalism within Apple and within our product is important because it translates complexity into very simple product. It reduces visual noise. It reduces cognitive load, hesitation, friction. It will help the user process the complexity that we don't see because technology is very complex. Now we kind of forgot that there is a code behind the app. There is back end. There's data that is loaded constantly while using each application. The user forget that, and that's the point of minimalism design, is to make the user forget. It's to make the user not think about it. And there's a quote from Johnny Ive, which was a senior design lead at Apple. The user can use it without thoughts. That's what minimalism is.
Great. Ines, when we talk about a great designer, uh, and when someone we call a great designer, when he starts designing something, a tech product, what
Hmm.
are the key questions that they ask from a user? For example, if a new person wants to be a great designer, what are the key questions and key steps he or she needs to follow to be a great designer? I'm not talking about how they can get the skills of it. I'm asking, when practically somebody is sitting on the table or in the meeting or with the customer or user, tell me this whole process of great design.
Hmm. The question they will ask the user, or the question
Yeah,
they will ask in general.
in I mean the general key steps for making a great design.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It will really. It's kind of hard to tell you each step, like step by step, because it really depends on the project, and it depends on the product you are working on. It depends on the people you are working with. It depends what is the goal of the product. And I guess the main and the first question you will ask is, what is the goal? What is the goal of this product? Why are we designing this? What problem are we solving? Because designing is solving problems. And I think it's the main difference between art and design. That's why it's different. Design is not art. Art, art is meant to express your soul, express as a human being. Design is meant to resolve problem, to solve issues. It can be physical design, it can be UI design, it can be architecture design, fashion design. All of the design resolve problems. So the first question a designer, sorry, should ask is, what are we trying to resolve? What is the problem? And how can we solve that problem? That would be the first question to ask ourselves. Then to the user, first before asking the user, you need to identify your user. So uh, who is your user? That's why we do a user persona. User persona is used on many type of researcher, not only design. You can use it for marketing. So you use it to identify who is going to be your user, who is going to use this product. Not everyone is going to use your product. If you are building a health app, or if you're building a, a parking application, only people who has a car will use this application. So you need to identify who has a car. Obviously, it's not going to be a 15-year-old. It's not going to be a teenager who's going to use your application. It's going to be probably a young adult or an adult. So you're going to start refining this user persona for your specific product. When you identify your user target and who is your user, that's when you can start to talk to your user. That's why we make user research. You can do that in multiple ways. You can create interviews. You can reach out to people outside. I've done that when I was in San Francisco, and I was going to my design school on my free time. I used to go to people outside and ask them questions about the project I was working on. I would have a list of questions based on the project, and I was talking about the parking application because I actually had a project for a parking app. So I will go to the user and ask them, how do you usually find parking? How do you usually go to work? Do you use a vehicle? If they don't use a vehicle, then they are not in my user target. Do you know someone who uses a vehicle? Do you know if they park? Do you know how they park? Have you seen them struggling finding parking? I will ask open-ended question. Never ask a yes or no question. I will ask open-ended question to understand the problem. Again, coming back to the problem. You identify the problem. You don't identify the problem at first. You guess. You make an assumption at first. Then you go to the user. You confirm this problem. You and then after the user research, that's where you can identify the problem. Okay, I've made research. I've made quantitative research and qualitative research. I sent out surveys. I went directly outdoor talking to people, and this is the data I'm getting. This is 80% of people are saying they're having trouble finding parking. That means this is a problem. And based on that, this is where you can start ideating.
Wow, that's really amazing. This is great approach, I mean, to start the designing process. So, Ines, what are the common mistakes that designers make in UX and UI part, and they should not make those mistakes? The common one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the most common one I'm seeing a lot will be probably lack of clarity, probably busyness. I see a lot of website trying to overload the design, which increase the cognitive load and overwhelm the user basically. So I think this is one of the most common. There's also a lack of visual architecture, information architecture. So it's very important in a design to have the information in order. What is more important? So that's why you create a sitemap at first before designing and sketching anything. You will create what we call in design a sitemap. Well, you will have what is more important first at level one. Let's say a home page. Let's say a home page. What is more important in this home page? What do we want the user to see at first? And then you will go from there. If you want them to buy a product, for example, you want them to see your product. So that's going to be in terms of information architecture, that's going to be first. So lack of clarity, busyness, don't overwhelm the user. The user do not like to read. People in general, we don't want to read. If we want to read, we go get a book. But if we want to use a product, we just want simplicity. I would say, to make it a little bit more easier for designers who are listening to me, or who junior, if there's any junior designer, if you are working on a design and you have a design, you should answer those three questions when looking at your design. The first one is, where am I? That's the first question. So the user enter this application or the website, where am I? The user need to answer that right away. The second question is, what can I do? So Okay, I'm on this website. It's clear that I am in this artist's website. I can see that he's selling paintings. I know where I am. I'm good. The second question is, what can I do? Okay, I see that I can buy paintings. So this is the second question. The second question is answer. And the third question is, where can I go from there? So if I don't want to buy anything right now, where can I go? Oh, there's an about section. I can go to the about section. You need to answer those three questions right away. Not because the user don't actually ask those questions, it's unconscious. But when the user land on your page, on your website, on your application, he should be able to answer those three questions immediately. So I would say, if you want to know if your design is good, can you answer those three questions right away?
All right. Can you repeat the third question? I mean, what was the third question?
Where can I go from there?
All right. So, but here is the problem. Every product or every website is not Google, is not ChatGPT, is not, it depends. It's not Apple.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Google design is very simple. When we see that it is very minimalist, there is a big Google in center, and then there is a search bar and you know the
Yeah.
sequence.
Yeah.
Depending on the product type, maybe there is a website that is a kind of educational, informational website or news
Mm-hmm.
website.
Mm-hmm.
So how to decide that how should be your homepage?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Information architecture. You go back to the content of your page. Okay, you go back to the content of your page. You lay out all the content of your page in a writing. It can be sketch, it can be writing on paper, or it can be writing in a document. And then from here you have to sort what is the most important, and what do you want your user to see first. And that's where you build your information architecture. That's where you build your landing page. So if you are featuring someone in your website, as for example, and this is very important for this week, you want the user to see that first, right? So that's why you will update your website to put that person in front. So this is the most important information that you want the user to see first. And that's how you will show that's what how you will show the content of your homepage, by importance. uh, we do an exercise in design. It's called feature prioritization. And basically, it does exactly what it says, is featuring your prioritization. What do you want the user to see? And what do you want the user to see first? And why? Why is this more important than the other? You have to be able to answer those questions. If you are
all
building a news, yes, if you are building a news website, for example, maybe
Mhm.
you want them to see the weekly news first, because it's, or the daily news first, because it's more important, because it's live, it's updating live, so maybe that information will be at the top.
All right. So, how does UI design contribute to the emotional impact of a product? For example, I mean, do you think that UX or UI part of a product trigger the emotional part of the human brain? What does, I mean, the user feel, and how a designer can make it sure that user feels good actually? For example, excuse me, so sometimes what happens that when there are certain users that think, okay, the product should not be this much simple, there should be
Mm.
some colorful and more, and I don't know how to ask this question. You got it?
I know, I definitely understand. It's a very important question in design, and it's all about your intention. So when you are building and when you're creating a product, you have, before you're starting anything, you have to set up your intention, meaning how do you want the user to feel when they interact with your product? And that's why it will vary. And that's why, as you say, um, designer will want them to want we want to design it more colorful. Why? Because maybe you are designing something that is more joyful, because you want to the user to feel more joyful about what you are showing, and maybe less about safety. And that's why you will not use the simple and minimalist approach, but you will use more a joyful approach. And the joyful approach is use more color, more colorful colors like yellow and pink. Maybe you're building a site that is about children. If you are building a site about children, or maybe there's a lot of school sites now that kids use. Kids are will care more about colors than an adult will. So the UI is going to be different. So it's all about your intention. You have to set up your intention first, and set up the feeling. So again, coming back to what Apple does very well is setting up the feeling. How do you want the user to feel when they are interacting with your product? Do you want them to feel safe? Do you want them to feel calm? Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel curious? How do you want them to feel? Like news, for example. News is probably about curiosity. Do you want them to feel intrigued, or maybe do you want them to feel unsafe, like some news make you feel? Maybe they want you to make you feel overwhelmed. That's maybe a goal. But it's all about your intention.
All right. So, right, the
But
product design should be minimalist. Go
the
ahead.
well, it depends. Like I said, it depends your intention. Some intention is not about, because minimalism is about safety. Apple uses minimalism because they want you to feel safe. Okay, they want you to feel safe enough so you come back over and over. And they want you to make you feel home. That's the main core of Apple. That's why you can't go back to other brands if you started to use iOS, because it's so calming and safe that you just feel home. Um, Minimalism, again, is about hiding complexity. It's about translating complexity to simple. Um, let's say, let's take the example of a car. If you enter a car and you saw all those wires, and you saw all the tubes and all the things that goes behind the dashboard, you'll probably feel overwhelmed and not safe, because you will be like, wait, I don't know all of that. How, like, I don't think this is safe. But because you have a very minimalist dashboard that is basically just hiding everything, you feel more safe. That's what Apple does very well. That's what minimalism does. That's why when you go to a cockpit in a plane, you feel overwhelmed and kind of scared to see all those buttons, because you just simply don't know how to use them. If you had all those buttons and all those tools that you don't know how to use, the feeling that you're gonna have is is fear and unsafe. So minimalism is hiding this complexity.
Very nice. You give very beautiful example. Otherwise, I was going to ask you, what is the link between this simplicity and safety, and what is the link of this being minimalism? And I mean, so I did not take that. But when you gave the example that if somebody is entering into a car and he sees all the wires behind, transparent everything. So yes, that will be, he will be in anxiety and
Yes.
something like that. So great analogy, great analogy. So, very important question. Yes, design should be minimalist and should be safe, feel good, simple, but how a designer can ensure that you are not compromising or sacrificing the core functionalities or important functionalities just for the simple designing?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I actually, this comes up often. In this is a mistake from designers. That can be a very big mistake, because sometimes you confuses minimalism with just basically removing. information, which is not minimalism. Minimalism, again, is making complexity look simple. We are not removing complexity. Complexity is still here. It just looks simple. So that's the main criteria, and the big difference between the simple minimalism and just basically removing things away. You don't want to just remove information. You have to, and the way to do that, and making sure you're not just removing things to make it look more white, that's not the goal, is to focus on the essential tasks. Okay, if you have to, all the content is here, and all of the essential content is here, and all of the essential tasks is here. Now from there, how can you make it easy to navigate through? There's multiple ways that Apple does, that Apple uses. There's multiple ways that designer uses. Menus is one example. For example, menus, what it does is, I'm talking about hamburger menu, as we call it, the three lines. When you go on your phone and you have an application, you have a menu on the top right. This is a way to simplify the menu and hides the information but doesn't remove it. That's just one example. When you click on the menu, you have the information. We didn't remove those information because it just looked better. We hide it in a way that it is still simple to use and still keep the information here. So there's ways like this, and Apple does this very well. That's why you have all those hidden tools when you use your iPhone. Is that is you have all the complexity. You can do so many things with your iPhone. You have so many tools and features in your iPhone that you can do, but still it looks simple and easy because they are using icons, because they're using iconography, they are using information architecture, they are using menus, they are using accordion. So accordion, sorry for the pronunciation, but they will use arrows where you can click and have more information. They will use multiple tools and focus on the essential. What do you have to see? So the menu, you still have to see an icon, right? So that is essential. You still have to see the icon so the user knows they can click on it. That is essential. And so that's why you have to, again, go back to information architecture. What is essential? What the user have to see to interact with the product, and then everything else, you can design it in a way that is not overwhelming. So information architecture is very important.
Well, right. Ines, does it happen that sometimes when a product designer is talking about something, keeping design in a certain way, keeping design in a simple way, or whatever is the way, in a certain way, but there are constraints or conflict with the technical team? They are saying, hey, you are just a designer and you don't know how the things work on behind, so please don't mess with the technical things. So I mean, is there sometimes a conflict between technical team and designers because they want something in a certain way, but the technical team says no, it is not possible this way?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's why it's very important to work with your engineers and developers from the very start of the project, if you can. Um, the simple way to resolve this is communication, as simple as it is. Every time I work on a project, I work with the engineer by my side. The more you will work with the engineers and the developers, the more you would know as a designer what is possible and what is not possible. That's why, as a designer, it is also your responsibility to inform yourself, educate yourself. Not, you don't have to get a degree in computer science, but to also inform yourself by just asking simple questions to an engineer or to a developer. Hey, can you do this? Is this possible? Before designing anything, if you have an idea that is maybe out of the box, that is maybe different, this is good and this is great. It's great to have ideas that are bold, that are different. then ask questions. Is this, I have this idea and I'm thinking about it. Do you think this is possible to make? So just simply communicating with the engineer and developers, for me at least, has been a way to cope with those maybe constraints that I've never really had, because I've always collaborated with them. And I always try to educate myself, and that's why I learned HTML back then. I also learned AI engineering, just to know how does it work behind. Because as a designer, you, you don't have to, but I think it's still better to know what's behind. um, that's why I studied AI engineering. I didn't want to become an AI engineer, but I wanted to know, how does it work? Like, what is a cluster? What is, like, understanding those terms that engineers will use also will facilitate communication. So I think being open as a designer and not just focus and be closed minded into your design world, I think will probably be a good road for you as a designer.
All right. So, Ines, when as a designer, when you start designing a product, you have to work with the engineers, with the marketing guys, and
Mhm.
the cross teams. So, in general, what are the common questions or common things that you ask from all the teams so that you start with a great design? I mean, what are the how you think you can collaborate with the other teams, for example, engineers, marketers, and all the other teams?
Mm-hmm. Yes, again, it would depend on the product and what you are working on. The question will vary depending on the subject. But I would say starting again, communication from the beginning of the project, um, starting technical until it becomes more creative. I would say this is a better formula. Starting with the technical, asking question about what is the scope of the project, what is the requirements, because sometimes you will have requirements, we need to have this functionality. So starting with the technical, what is possible, what is not possible, and then go to the creative. I would say, yeah, that's how I take it. I don't start creating, I first manage all the technical parts.
Right. Let's do it more simple. For example, you are designing an online education platform
Hmm.
that uh, you know that upskill and reskill the students and professionals of different skills, computer skills, communication skills, or whatever. So it's a kind of skill based online education platform.
Hmm.
This is the product. So, what would be the common questions that I mean, just what are the questions you will ask to the founder of that platform, and to the user of that platform, and to the marketing team of that platform, and to the engineering team of that platform? Just a live demo. Yeah,
This you put me on the spot. I don't that because that will depend on the project scope. I mean, e- every role will have a different question. You will ask a different question to every person. You're not gonna ask the same question to the marketer that you will ask to the CEO, or to the manager, or to the engineer. So if I had to, like, let's say, collaborate with a business owner and he's hiring me to build a website for him, or a platform, or an educational platform, like you said, then I will start asking him, what is the main goal? What do you want? What is this app? What do you want the impact of this app going to be? um, what do you want to what is the problem we are solving? What is your ideal? What is your dream application? I want to know. I want, because you want to really understand the vision. Because if you're talking to a founder, if you're talking to a CEO, this is going to be a total different conversation than you will have with an engineer. So if you're talking to a CEO or a founder, you will have to talk vision. What is his vision? How is he seeing this? Then from there, you can scale down and be more specific on the design. It's like, okay, I understand your vision. You want to help students. You want to bring IT, you want to bring education to more people. You want to have to, you want students to have access to this education more easily. This is his vision. Then from there, you become more specific. Okay, then how would you see that happening? Do you see that within an application? Do you see that through courses? Do you see that through videos? Then you become more specific because you are the designer. So you, when he sees the vision, you should see screens. You should see boxes laying out of how it would look like. Because an education, it's either going to be through videos, either going to be through PDFs, it's either through going to be through an application, maybe through a course, etc., etc. So then your role is to visualize his vision. Now, with an engineer, then you take this, then you go to the engineer and you talk to him. And they're like, okay, this is the idea. Can we make this possible? Is this possible on the backend? Can you run those videos through this application? Can we create our own application with our own data? Can we record all those emails? Can we store all those emails of the students and make sure that they can log in and then access to the videos? Can we make sure that if they don't log in, they cannot have access to the videos? That's where you will have to talk technical. Then you will go to the marketer, and then you will talk about marketing. Okay, this is the application we're building. It's going to be a course with videos. The students will have access with a login. Then they will need to have to enter their email. How can we make this application accessible to a wide range of students? And this is the role of the marketer. Um,
Is
that's
it necessary? Uh-huh. Go ahead.
this. No, no. So I think I was done. I think I did all the roles that you mentioned.
Right. So, is it necessary, for example, you told that you asked the founder that what is his ideal or sample or reference product? But is it necessary for a product founder that, for example, if a founder is working in education or edtech domain, is it necessary that the sample or reference product or the ideal product he loves should be from the education and edtech, or that could be from other domain too? For example, let me talk about myself. I, as a founder of Innovation Valley, I'm very inspired from the model of Uber and Airbnb. For example, I think that the skill education needs to be Uberized, and there should be a product like Airbnb with a hybrid model uh, to make sure that you democratize the skill education across the world. So it means my ideal product is Airbnb. So is it okay to take a product from other industry for designing your industry's product just as an inspiration in view of the design and model thing? For example, let me explain a little bit more. For example, the Airbnb website and portal, there are actually guests and there are property owners. The product of Airbnb is matching both of them, connecting both of them. Just like that, Innovation Valley portal wants to connect the learner to the industry experts like you. But the design of the product could be like Airbnb. The only difference is the industry. So is that is that you mean when you say that you need a sample or ideal product of the product founder?
Um, so I would say there's a difference between ideal and inspiration. So when I meant was, if I was talking to the founder, I will ask him what his dream or ideal product. I was not really talking about a competitor or something that already exists. I was talking in his mind. In his mind, can you describe your ideal product? What would the user do in an ideal world? If he uses as an example another tool that already exists, then I will go and analyzes this application that he uses as an ideal to take inspiration. I'm not going to copy. We're not going to copy. We're going to take inspiration because that is his ideal and because maybe it relates a lot to what he wants to do. So there's a difference between copying and getting inspiration. You don't want to do copy paste of an application. It's not going to work because there's already an application. And that's where your branding comes. You will need to have an identity. So when you design a product, you can take inspiration from another app as long as you keep your identity. You can take inspiration from minimalism from Apple as long as you keep your identity. You can keep your identity by having your own color palette. You can keep your identity by having your own iconography. You can keep your identity by having your own background colors or background images or background icons. I take my case as an example. I inspire a lot from Apple, but I don't copy them in my own branding because I do my own website. I use some of what they do well, but I will use my own colors that identify me as Ines, as a person, as what I love. I love nature and I love art. And in my branding, for example, I use this more of turquoise blue. Apple never used turquoise. I use it because it reminds me of the sky. So you have to use the branding core, the culture, and inspire by you can get inspired by other application and other brand that do it very well. There's nothing wrong with that.
Got it. Um, what I mean is, for example, in my case, I'm inspired by the business model and technology model and the platform model of Airbnb. That I think could be work, that similar kind of model could work to design the hybrid education model in education and edtech industry. The
Well,
problem is, if I
well,
do research, if I do research, I see that yes, I'm inspired by Airbnb, but what I want on the model of Airbnb, that is not available. I mean, the ideal product that I want is not available. There is something new, for example. Uh, what I want to say is the the colors would be of innovation valley. The colors and the core model will be definitely of ours own. We are only inspired because they have actually done something already. For example, when we talk about the technology model and platform model and something, matchmaking the users with the customers with the sellers, or on this model, the guests to the property owners.
mhm.
So what I want to say is the inspiration is there, but the exact product that I want is not in the market that I can tell you, okay, I want something like this. So this is something that I want to ask.
What is the question?
The question is, what if a founder has the product that he or she is inspired of, but he does not have the exact copy of something that he wants as a reference? For example,
Yes.
he says, hey, I want this AI product, let's say, such kind of, his design should be like this, but the exact product is not available that his or her design could be copied. But by
Mm-hmm.
copy, I mean not exactly copy, I mean to take inspiration of. But
Mm-hmm.
technically, let's say, that
Yes.
is not already done. I
No,
mean,
but
yeah.
yes, I mean, but that's what makes a product unique. That's a great news. It's not a problem. That is the opposite of a problem. I mean, we will make our research, and the ideal is to have a product that is unique. That's why we build new products. So in your scenario, you're building something that has never existed. So as a designer, I will get inspired by other design, but I will create something completely new based on your idea, because your idea is unique. Um so so this is not a problem. Like, this will make your product unique, and this is when we will conduct market research, and we will collaborate with the marketer, and understand that our problem has not been solved yet, so let's solve it.
Great. And and it's now something exciting. Innovation Valley is planning a master class with you, and I'm so happy for that. So,
That's right.
when we talk about the master class on product design, on UX UI design, I would like to ask that who actually should learn this and attend this master class, and why? And
Mhm.
if those guys or people don't attend that, what they can lose? And let's talk opposite. Why should they attend it?
Hmm. Yes, and I'm glad you're bringing this, because we are conducting, and we will be conducting the master class of design, and I will be the teacher. I'm very honored that I will be the teacher, and I'm very excited because I love talking about design and I love sharing about design, and I'm so excited, so excited to be able to share my knowledge, my experience, personal experience with Apple. I'm so excited to be able to share that to students who wants to learn. I would say so. This class is going to go to the fundamental of design. So it is going to be a more beginner class. So we will go from the fundamental of design, the theory, the user research, and the design thinking process, all the way to UI and user interface design. So this is a beginner class where you will learn all about the design thinking process, all about what I've just talked about: how to make a great design, how to conduct user interviews, how to talk to the user, how to make the research, and how to create this information architecture I just talked about, how to do all of this before creating the wireframe. Then we will go to the tools, how to create design on Figma. We will use Figma, how to use FigJam, how to use components, how to use variants. We will go through all of those practical design. I will start and I will design in front of you to show you, because that's how I like to teach, is to show you directly. So I will create design with you, to show you, for you. And this is what you will gain within 6 weeks. So 6 weeks, we will learn all the fundamental, and you will be able to learn the tools, but also the concept of design. And at the end of the 6 weeks, then you will be able to at least use Figma and create designs on your own with those concepts. I would say what you would lose if you if you don't attend is probably that's a hard that's a hard the reverse is hard, but probably a good connection, good connection between designers, good connection between open-minded people, good connection and great learning, open-minded learning, coaching. I will make sure that I answer all your questions, all your worries, support. I will try to. I will train you. Also, there's going to be a part of interview training for getting a job at big companies like Apple and Google. So I will be able to be your support as a coach and as a teacher. So yeah.
I am very excited for this program. So, Ines, I mean, since
Zahid,
you know,
just 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry.
sure. सो आज का पॉडकास्ट जो है वो बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है इनिस के साथ और इनिस से हम अभी एक और भी क्वेश्चन मैं बहुत अहम पूछने वाला हूँ अभी हम पूछते हैं इनिस से
Sorry.
Ines is with us. And Ines, I was going to ask you, since you know something about Innovation Valley, I guess you little bit have gone through the platform of Innovation Valley. Would
Yes.
you like to say something about Innovation Valley, about the vision of Innovation Valley, about this podcast or anything?
Yes, well, first, I think meeting you and talking to you has been just an amazing experience. I'm so happy I met you, and I we were able to talk and share our experience. I really respect your vision and your core value and the mission that you're trying to accomplish, which is giving access to IT education across third world countries, if we can call them like this. I don't like to use the word third world countries, but I know that, for example, I'm French Algerian, and a lot of people in Algeria still don't have access to all those courses. And my goal one day is to be able to create something like that for Algeria and for African countries that don't have this access to the knowledge we in the Western world have more access to. I really respect your mission and your core value. Um, so thank you for letting me be a part of it. I hope that I can inspire and help your mission.
Since you will be teaching UX UI design and the overall product designing, thing on Innovation Valley,
Yes.
why do you think that Innovation Valley like platform should be there in the world? I would I would love you to shed more light on this, since there is the education, kind of education that is very very premium kind of education, top tier skills like in Stanford, MIT, Harvard, the big universities. Why do you
Mhm.
think Innovation Valley like platforms on which you are going to teach are important, and what value they will add?
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly why I think it's very important, is because Innovation Valley makes it not premium. It makes it accessible, accessible to a common user, if we might say. And that's why I really respect your mission and your in what you are doing at Innovation Valley, is bringing the knowledge, bringing people from your podcast, from the teacher. I mean, this is amazing. I saw your podcast. You're bringing people from all those different big companies, and some kid or some teenager that may never have access to this knowledge can have access to how all this information through you. So thank you for doing that, and even interviewing me right now. I can share my experience, and hopefully that can inspire, I don't know, little girls or teenager or women that are interested in design, that are interested in this world, but don't necessarily have access to it. And I can hopefully inspire through Innovation Valley. So thank you for hosting this, and thank you for doing this.
Ines, thank you very much for joining. In the last, I would request you to uh, say something. What advice would you give to the aspiring UX UI designers who want to work at world class companies like Apple?
So, if I had to give advice, and this is coming from a humble me, okay, I don't know everything. I'm still learning every day. But just really be yourself. That's the first thing. The first thing is be yourself. Don't try to look professional. Don't try to look more advanced than you are. If you are a junior, that's okay. If some employer will look for a junior, so being a junior is not something you have to be ashamed of. um, you have to be willing to be a junior, because at the end of the day, throughout your career as a designer, you will have to be a junior over and over and over again. You will constantly be learning. I'm still learning. Sometimes I work with another designer, and he's teaching me something, and I become a junior again, and I start listening. I start stepping out, and I want to be like, oh, okay, he's doing something I've never done. So I should step out and just listen to what he's doing. And you don't have to always have an answer. Okay. It's okay to not know. It's okay to not be, it's okay to not be a senior designer or advanced in all those tools. It's okay to learn. Just be yourself. Just be who you are, on who you are, but learn. Obviously, you want to learn. Be willing to learn. It's okay to learn. It's okay to want to know more. But don't try to act more because you're not there yet. You will get there, and everything will come at the right time. Um, Another advice is always be willing to be a student again. I know some people go to very long studies, and after they are done with a 5 year 10-year study, they would never want to be a student again. uh, but that's wrong because you will have to be a student again. You will have to learn again. You will have to get educated again. So be willing to be a student again, student of life and student of design and student of communication. Be a good listener. That's another advice I would say. Listen to what people say. Actually listen, not hear. Listen to what your product manager is saying. Listen to what your coworker is saying. That will make you a very good designer, because a good designer is someone who emphasizes with people. So if you listen, you can actually emphasize and understand the emotional intelligence, and be emotionally intelligent. You have to be emotionally intelligent to be a designer. So, to recap, being a human, being curious, listening, and being emotional intelligent.
Thank you very much, Ines, and I hope that my listeners will learn a lot what you talked all this episode, and it was really, really amazing. Thank you for joining, and I'm sure that we will come with a great episode very, very soon.